Hello, and welcome to CDO Magazine and Lingaro Tech Talks interview series. My name is Patrick Martin. I am a business development manager for Lingaro. We're a data and analytics company. And today I have the honor of having a nice interview with Priya Sarai, who is the CIO at OmniCable. Hello, how are you today?
Hey, Patrick, doing great. How are you?
Great. It's so nice to chat with you. And looking at your background, very impressive. A lot of great experiences working for multiple industries, including consulting. You've worked for companies such as SEI Investments, Belcan, and Tata Consulting Services. How have these broad experiences prepared you for your role as the CIO at OmniCable?
Yeah, Patrick, interesting question, right? I feel like a successful CIO today wears a lot more hats than any other executive on their team. They need to be much more well-rounded in every aspect of the firm. If you think about it, just a couple decades ago, the expectation from an IT leader was to be detail-oriented, be a logical thinker, be a sequential thinker. They weren't your blue sky strategist. They weren't your revenue-driving executive on the team. They mostly just provided technical reasonings on what could be done and why, but didn't really associate themselves much with the business growth. Now, there were obviously a select few executives that could straddle both tech and business, but they were just a handful. And the CIO role has emerged quite a bit from there. Companies are seeking these hybrid CIO roles who are business savvy, who have experience with data and analytics, experience with org designs, infrastructure, and who can basically help through kind of building this holistic ecosystem to support global growth. Luckily for me, I was never content with just staying appraised on the new tech. In every role that I've played, I've strived to understand how that new tech can solve for business problems. My experience with various industries other than the technologies, like finance, entertainment, education, consulting, services, supply chain, and a lot more has kind of given me that opportunity to apply tech solutions that may be popular in that one business area or one industry. It kind of gives me that understanding to apply that same solution in another. I can connect dots much better, I feel, and cross-pollinate these solutions across business areas. I feel like it's business, right? CIOs today are seen more as business professionals. So understanding of all of these market trends and financials of what disrupts your business is as important as understanding the technology trends.
Completely agree. Your organization, OmniCable, has been around for over 40 years. You have 14 distribution centers, very large organization. As the CIO and being strategic, it's very important to have partnerships with external IT service providers, technology providers. How do you determine or evaluate mutually beneficial relationships with those different partners?
In an industry like ours, the distribution or wholesaler industry, some technologies I would say have held steady ground for decades. You think about your e-procurement solutions, your ERP solutions, but then on the flip side, you think about mobile, you think about Internet of Things. Again, data analytics for supply chain optimization, all these things have still a long way to go. So finding that right talent across these diverse fields, because you're talking mobile, you're talking IoT, you're talking cybersecurity, it's quite diverse. The skill sets, it's very different. So finding that right diversity and then scaling that talent and proving the ROI for that same is a huge challenge, I would say. And then don't forget, like the talent that we need, like we talked about the business composition of it, person who can not just understand the technology, but also connect the right business solutions to it is very important. I'll tell you, I sometimes feel like I'm looking for unicorns in our industry who can understand the tech, understand the business, apply it, do it fast, prove ROI, all of that, right? So to make that happen, partnership is very important. Partnership with the right technology houses is really the strategy that I count upon heavily. At OmniCable, currently I'm spearheading some of our key initiatives that I'm spearheading are inventory optimization, artificial intelligence for pricing, and customer integration, kind of streamlining our ordering and quoting processes. These are some of the few that I'm really working on. And then if you think about it, you're talking sales, you're talking supply chain, you're talking data. So again, they're like very diverse in the skill sets that I'm talking about. But surprisingly, when you look at vendor selection, as I start laying out the selection criteria, even though the technology is very diverse, the selection criteria is pretty much common and same, because I'm looking for expertise in business processes. I'm looking for experience in the industry, how much of the partnership they show in that early process, and their ability to work with me, and their ability to do the investment analysis for me. And of course, how deep is their tech talent bench. So some of these common areas I feel are very, very straightforward across. It's just the tech skill sets that kind of keep varying.
Yep, exactly. Well, we all know the pace of change and innovation today is as you mentioned, is changing rapidly. Things are becoming more and more mature, and it requires constantly learning new things, the new trends. How do you stay abreast of these new innovations so that you can help OmniCable maintain a competitive advantage in the industry?
Oh my God, yeah. I'll be honest, it's very hard to keep up. And yes, changing landscape in both tech and business, and now furthermore changing with COVID to account for the various remote working options. It's a brain scratcher. Like, well, what do you do? I feel like time management is key to stay up to date with this industry trends. What I do is I subscribe to some leading periodicals like ComSpark, CIO Magazine, CIO, Gartner, listen to the podcast, video, audio, both, follow the right LinkedIn users in various fields, and learn from the things basically with what people are doing, and not necessarily reinvent the wheel every time. But yeah, like everybody has access to all this content. But for time management, what I do is listen to audibles. So I really rely a lot on our podcast and Audible for books, so that you can listen in while you're driving, or less driving these days, but cooking, doing household chores. I always have my my iPods on, so that you're constantly learning, even trying to multitask, right? Outside of that, I always block on my calendar some thinking time and reading time, so that you're not always like inundated with meetings, and you have that time to kind of take a step back and process what you're listening, and then apply all the podcast and LinkedIn articles and then all of that into your day-to-day.
Yep. Your role is a very transformational role as the CIO, and that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But key to that is evangelizing and really getting the folks on your team and within your organization as a whole to work together. How do you create that collaborative environment where you can set the strategy and direction and get folks to work together with you?
Yeah, so transformation is huge, yes, and tech transformation on top of that is definitely even more cumbersome, I would say. In change management, it definitely helps kind of bring all this together, the technology and the business changes that you're going through. In my mind, what change management really ensures is that the new processes that are resulting from a tech transformation are actually adopted by the people who are affected or impacted by it. It's difficult, and it does take a great deal of time to change behaviors. The biggest mistake that any tech executive can make is to assume that everyone who is impacted by any change that you're working on, they'll understand how that business case is compelling enough and just adapt that new way of learning. But that resistance will occur at levels that you sometimes can't imagine, right? So I believe that change management is more of a contact sport, if you will. Mass communications are helpful for training, like your emails and videos and trainings and stuff like that. They're good for training, but they don't personalize the message enough for each group. And change is personal. So you need to listen to people whose jobs are being transformed and work with them to accept that new way of reality. And one really good way to do that is having the right sponsor. So you definitely need your IT lead to be your IT sponsor, but you need the right business sponsor with you. The sponsor should understand that case for change. They should have that ability to communicate the reason on why we need that new way of operating, be the influencer in the organization, and be confident enough to confront the skeptics and make that change happen. One approach actually that I'm doing, I'm currently implementing at OmniCable, is creation of a business council. Now, product council in software development firms is not a novel idea. Pretty much every organization out there does that. So I've just kind of changed it a little bit to form a business council for a company like ours, where I'm mostly implementing SaaS applications. Any IT implementations or projects that run over 100 hours, I'm trying to take them through the council. And this council is formed of not your directors and executives. They are formed of direct line managers. They are the ones who best understand the change at the grassroots level and can speak and attest to the upcoming changes. So hopefully that will work out for me. That is still at its very infancy at Omni, but so far it's going well and it's helping us a lot.
That's a great idea. I really like that. Mm-hmm. As you mentioned before, the evolution of the CIO's role becoming more and more strategic and business focused. Obviously, your job is to set the IT vision and strategy, align that with the organization strategy. But we all know that you also have to get things done. So how do you balance the strategic nature with the tactical day-to-day getting things done?
Yeah. Well, with any company that I've worked for, Patrick, maintaining that balance between business as usual, BAU, tactical, and strategy is very, very crucial. You don't want to lose the momentum on the existing business case or your cash cow, but you also want to ensure that you have your eyes set on the horizon so as to grab that first mover advantage or just follow the trends in the industry so that you're not really lagging behind. The way I do it is typically have two sets of backlogs and create those focus areas for my team for a given time period. On your team, you always have those strategic thinkers and they will always want to know what's going on in the industry. Whereas there are some who are very apt at running that day-to-day with the maintenance and then the support type items. And you need both on your team and you need to maintain both very well. So I kind of create those two backlogs to give them enough. I also try to do that healthy rotation between both sets of teams, cross-pollination again, so that if you have some hidden gem hiding in either of those areas, you give them enough visibility on the both sides so that you identify those and hone those talent and skill sets as needed in both areas and give them that enough change of scenery, right? I feel like that rotation also helps manage with any loss of information that may happen due to attrition. So that impact, if somebody leaves your team, is kind of kept to a minimum with both business as usual and strategy by doing that.
Very good. So as you're continuing on your digital transformation, what are some of the opportunities? I don't like to use the word challenges, but opportunities that you've found to help you further your evolution? Is it people, process, technology, or combination?
It's always a combination is the short answer, right? But I read this very interesting article, I think on HBR not very long time ago. And it had this catchy title and it just stuck with me. It said, digital transformation is not about digital. It's not about technology. And obviously that title will catch your eye. Like, what are you saying? Digital transformation is not about digital? It was interesting because if you think about it, yes, technology in some ways is the easy part to deal with because right from the get-go, your decision-making is going to be logical with technology. Like you always know 2 + 2 is 4. Now there are different ways to get to the 4. You can do 2 × 2 or you can do 1 + 3, but the answer is going to be 4. Not so much with people and processes, right? There's a lot of ways to go about it. Number one issue with people and processes change management. We already talked about that. But number two in my mind is having that right vision or that right strategy. Like your strategy can't be, I need to have machine learning on my team. No, it has to be tied with the right business objective on what are you trying to solve, and ensuring that you're leveraging the tenure and talent within the organization to define that problem and possibly the solution vision as well. Last but not the least, I would say, to deal with people and process would be to do it the startup way. I love Eric Ries, his books a lot, both Startup Way and then Lean Startup. And I feel like he has a lot of practical examples that we can all use. A lot of organization maneuvers that he talks about are very practical, and it should be and can be implemented for digital transformations. I feel like it gives you the flexibility and agility that you need to make decisions and to drive decisions faster. Prototyping, stakeholder engagement, even financial investment, all needs to be, I feel, taken care of in a non-bureaucratic way, so that you don't lose your team along the way of your transformation ride.
Excellent. Switching gears just a little bit, return on investment's a very important for anything that we do. You mentioned it earlier as well. Again, back to the business focus. A lot of times, some of these strategic initiatives, these transformations, the ROI isn't directly obvious of what that is. So how do you attribute success for a project that might not have a real direct ROI? Because obviously that's important for your business leadership, for your stakeholders, others. Just kind of share with me how you educate them on the impacts that some of these projects, which might be a building block type project, that will pay off even more down the road. But any thoughts on that?
So it feels like deja vu to me because just last week, I was attending this. We had a kickoff meeting with the Electric Federation group in Canada. And we had our first kickoff meeting for the IT group within the Electric Federation of Canada. And I was tasked as being the chairman of a task group to do ROI analysis for cybersecurity. That was the topic.
Wow.
And cybersecurity is, all of us understand how important it is and all that needs to be done and the energy that needs to go with it. But how do you do the ROI for cybersecurity? So it's interesting. Like bare minimum, I feel most companies are doing it. Your endpoint protection and encryption and stuff like that. But doing the whole monitoring suite and how deep do you want to go with it? And your phishing alerts and user awareness and identity management. Not many organizations are still going deep with it, and executives and our board members in any given company are struggling to understand what are they getting out of it, because it's very hard to tie a financial number to it. So that I feel is a very good example that you can do a good ROI on. But the way I'm trying to treat it with OmniCable is treat it as an insurance policy, right? Like if you don't do this, this is what you lose. So how much are you okay to lose by not checking those boxes? And that could be how much is the downtime in an event that a breach has to occur? How quickly can you shut your system? How quickly can you bring them up? Those type of tech is BCDR, like we say, business continuity is what we're looking for, right? It's nothing else than a disaster recovery. Cybersecurity threat is a disaster these days. So using that as an example, right, that it's not necessarily a return on investment in the sense that it's giving you growth in your revenue or growth in your bottom line, but it's still an insurance policy, because if you don't do that, what is it that is at stake? What is it that you will lose? And that is a different way of working that map and trying to connect the dots for your CFO, right?
Excellent. No, that's great. I like what you said. Cybersecurity attacks that is a disaster. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
You mentioned, your team and the talents and experience and how important that is. what's your secret to recruiting and, even more important, retaining the right folks with the right talents and experiences that can help you be successful? How do you motivate them? What sorts of things do you do?
Yeah. I think this is more of a cliche that we hear on several boards these days is people don't leave the organization, they leave the managers, right? So no pressure to all the managers out there, right? I feel like it's a lot to do with your management style on kind of motivating the talent on your team. When it comes to my management style and then people, I believe in being inclusive and transparent. I seldom go to my team with a directive like, hey, you need to do X, Y, and Z. I always go with, here is the problem and how do we solve it? Because there's always like multiple ways to solving a problem. And instead of going to your team with a solution, you may want to try going to them with a problem and encourage them to offer solutions and participate in that process with them to kind of keep them along a path. I feel like it helps them to connect the business problems to your tech solutions more closely, because now you're giving them that opportunity to think. You're kind of honing them and training them to get there. And also motivate them, because now they can really see on how their solutions are making an impact out there. That's not a black box to them anymore, right? Another thing I feel I read about in this book, Radical Candor, was, there's always this notion, especially with the executives, is you want all A players on your team. And you want people who are hungry and motivated and want to grow and all that good stuff. And that's true. Like, you do want those people. But imagine if all your team members are just hungry to grow and they're looking for the next. Who's going to take care of what's built if you always want people who are growing? So maintaining that balance in the team is, again, important. You do not want all A players. You do not want all people that are hungry. You want a steady mix of everyone on the team, a steady balance. You want your rocks, the people who I feel are not looking to take that next step, are your rocks on the team who will hold your team steady and do that grunt work that is very necessary. So that's another key to keep. Other than that, Patrick, lots of happy hours, right? Virtual happy hours, if not taking them out, or other team building activities, I think is essential to kind of keep that teamwork and the close-knit team environment together in a company.
No, I like that. I think it's very important to feel like you belong to something and know the people that you're working with. So yeah, that's great. Well, Priya, I've got one last question, and it's kind of timely right now, but we're in the middle of this giant pandemic with COVID. And I just wondered, has it impacted any of your key initiatives? And then if so, what have you learned? Has there been any surprises, maybe employees outperforming or coming up with ideas? What have you seen during this time of uncertainty?
Yeah, it's. I think COVID has taught everyone in different areas and different industries a lot. But I feel like the technology teams, the IT teams, have really come up with so much in such a short time. I still remember I was with SEI when COVID hit, and I remember we were sitting in a conference room planning, like, one day everybody go remote, and we're just going to test our networks and test how everybody's functioning, and just like next day when we come back, we'll fix all the issues that we see. And I remember we did that remote day. And after that, our governor in the area announced that, okay, it's a shutdown for all businesses. And that after that day, it was supposed to be like a drill, but it became real suddenly. So it was an interesting experience because we thought it was a drill. But end of the day, we got that announcement, and now it has become a reality. Thankfully, everything worked, and we had a plan in place because we were seeing the numbers spike in so many different areas before it hit US. So we kind of sort of had a plan in place, and everything worked out okay. But it was also to do with an attestment to our strong infrastructure that was put in place as a BCDR plan ahead of time, as that insurance policies. And companies that had that vision and had those things in place did it more seamlessly than some of the others who couldn't. And then again, to a lot of attestment to our virtual tools, right? And easy to use and intuitive tools that are necessary. Because in times like these, imagine if you had to train people how to use a WebEx or how to use a Zoom. Like that would have been another disaster, right? So people take the user friendliness and the UI aspects of our technology sometimes for granted. And COVID has proved that no, you don't take that for granted, because it has to be intuitive enough for someone to just jump on and do the work that they are doing. So all of those things, right? Like I feel like accommodating remote working environment, how quickly we can all adapt to changing work environment when we all have a common goal. That common goal is very important, right? And then how easy to use or intuitive technology can soar, I feel like are all the learnings that we should and will continue to use.
Have you had any challenges with web meeting fatigue or burned out?
Yeah, no. So again, I feel like people are adapting to it differently. For me personally, I do get web meeting fatigue. I absolutely do. Because I still feel like that personal connection, walking from one meeting room to another, all the water cooler conversations that you
Absolutely.
had, I absolutely do miss those. But at the same time, I can't imagine just functioning over a phone. So I feel like it's still better that we have that ability to do the video calls and video meetings. Imagine if we had bandwidth issues and stuff like that, and we couldn't do so many video meetings. That would have really drained me even further down. So I feel it's better. Count your blessings. I do get Zoom meeting fatigue, and I hear a lot of my colleagues say the same. But at the same time, it helps still staying connected and watching that body language when you are in meetings or decisive meetings where that's important, and carry the business forward.
That's fantastic. I got to tell you, you have a very positive can-do attitude, and I'm sure your team thoroughly appreciates that, because it is tough, but we're all doing it. So well, thank you so much.
Patrick, do you sense fatigue with Zoom meetings since you asked?
Do I have it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
My company's based in Warsaw, Poland, so a lot of early Zoom meetings.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Can't imagine.
No, but it's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Priya. This was just a real joy to speak with you, and I appreciate you being so open and sharing your experiences and your thoughts with us today. I would like to thank anyone that's watching. Thank you for joining the ComSpark CDO Magazine video series. Thank you all, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Patrick. Bye.